The first candle is lit to honor Judaism. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. The second candle is lit to honor Hinduism. Lakshmi, beautiful goddess, seated on a chariot, bedecked with lotuses, pearls, and gems, lustrous as fire, radiant as gold, resplendent as the sun, calm as the moon. Take away poverty and misfortune, bring joy, riches, harvest, and children. The third candle is lit to honor Christianity. And God is able to make every favor and earthly blessing come in abundance to you, so that you may, under all circumstances, regardless of the need, have complete sufficiency in everything, and have an abundance for every good work and act of charity. The fourth candle is lit to honor Buddhism. Drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise man, gathering it little by little, fills himself with good. The fourth candle is lit to honor Taoism. Open the doors of abundance. Have plenty flow about me and fill me. May my abundance be great. The fifth candle is lit to honor Native American religions. Once I was in Victoria and I saw a very large house. They told me it was a bank and that the white men placed their money where to be taken care of, and that by and by they got it back with interest. We are Indians and we have no such bank, but when we have plenty of money of blankets, we give them away to other chiefs and people, and by they return them with interest, and our hearts feel good. Our way of giving is our bank. The sixth candle is lit to honor Islam. Abundance can be had simply by consciously receiving what already has been given. The final candle is lit to honor New Thought. The whole universe is on your side. Life is forever biased on the side of healing, on the side of overcoming, on the side of success. When you get yourself centered in the universal flow, you become synchronized with the divine biased for good. Today's reading by Ernest Holmes. Realize that behind everything that is seen is the silent cause. In your life, you are that cause. There is nothing but mind, and nothing moves except as mind moves. In our lives of conditions, we are the cause, and nothing moves except as our mind moves it. So if you can just take these words into that sacred place for a few minutes of contemplation. So how good it is to know that right where we are, God is. The very essence, our very soul is imbued and endowed with magnificence of God that is in us, through us, and around us at all times. It is embedded within every ounce of our being. We have this beautiful divine design that moves through us, as us, and around us at all times. And I know that this service is absolutely in divine order and divine right action. With Reverend Cece, to the band, to the children's church, absolutely every single thing is divinely ordained. We are blessed. We are empowered by that magnificent energy of God. And I say, thank you, God. And together we say, and so it is.
So I don't know whether that unicorn burnt out my batteries last week or not. We'll just have to see. If you caught it, it was Stephanie dressed up in a unicorn costume, giving a wonderful, wonderful fairy tale about what happens when we sort of stop being afraid to love and all those kinds of things. It was very entertaining. I watched it on YouTube. Did you know we have a YouTube channel? So if you ever need to pick me up, just go to Center for Spiritual Living on YouTube, and you can catch years worth of Sunday talks and things like that. So happy November. Wow. How did that happen, huh? I swear it was just barely June, but that's how it goes. In November, we're going to be talking about one of our shared values, which is financial health and financial security. We value order and balance in our finances, and we want, of course, we all want to experience optimal financial well-being. And we teach that the universe is an abundant place, and that abundance is expressed through us as prosperity, and prosperity provides resources to empower our individual, our personal, and collective visions. I'm going to repeat that last sentence. Prosperity provides resources to empower our personal and collective visions. I don't know about you, but that's not how we talked about money in my house when I was growing up. When I was growing up, both my parents worked, and they did okay. But money was never spent empowering a vision. It was always just getting by, and there was never seemed to be enough even to do that comfortably. At least that's how it appeared to me. It took me a long time to begin to understand, I guess, that prosperity is an attitude. It's not a number in a bank account. In fact, some of the least prosperous people I know are the ones with the most money. I used to work for a guy. 20 years ago, he had, I don't know, $7 or $8 million saved for retirement, and he was afraid to stop working. He was afraid to retire because he was afraid that something would happen and he wouldn't have enough money to live. Now, I'd say $7 or $8 million was wildly prosperous in my book, but not to him. There's never enough for him to feel prosperous. He's still working. He's in his 80s and he still is afraid to retire. He's probably got 20 million saved by now, but I just checked, he's still working. He has what I call the poorhouse mentality. He is always afraid something's going to happen that's going to put him in the poorhouse. I don't even think we still have poorhouses, but regardless, there is never enough. There is never going to be enough for him. And I sort of grew up with that attitude too until I came to this philosophy. And then I began to hear some things that made me realize that I could choose to think differently about this medium of energy exchange called money. I could choose to think differently about this state of being called prosperity. And I learned that that prosperity is a state of being that arises from the mental state called abundance. The mental state called abundance. And that abundance is a universal, a pretty obvious obviously part of the universal nature. And that abundance is about trust in that universal nature. I'm currently reading, I'm constantly reading in an attempt to remind myself of the truth and to learn about the deeper truths of all of this. And there was a writer in the 50s and 60s, a Barbadian, whose name was Neville Goddard. I'm sure some of you have read some of his stuff. And he wrote this lovely little book called Seed Time and Harvest. In that book, he talks about the story of Cain and Abel. You know that one, right? Cain was a farmer and Abel was a shepherd. They were the first sons of Adam and Eve, which means, of course, in biblical interpretation, that they're very, very close to the beginnings of us. They're very close to the primal consciousness that Adam and Eve represents. So anyway, Cain's a farmer, Abel's a shepherd, and each one brings an offering of first fruits to God. And God rejects Cain's offering and celebrates Abel's. And Cain was ashamed and angry, so angry that he later tracked his brother down in the field and killed him. The story's not about two brothers named Cain and Abel. It's about us. All the Bible stories and the deep stories from all Scripture They're about us. Every character and every event and every place is about some part of our own consciousness. And so we're both Cain and Abel. And as I say, they were the first sons. So they're very close to primal in our consciousness. And Cain is that worldly sense that says, there's never enough. There's never going to be enough. I'm not going to have enough. What I have isn't going to stretch far enough. It's the part of us that feels we'll be happier if we have more stuff, if we get more money, if we just had more resources, it would be easy. And Cain's viewpoint, and I think you know this already, it always results in disillusionment and anger, because I don't care how much stuff we have. If we still haven't addressed what's inside of us, it doesn't bring us happiness. My neighborhood is like, everybody has a 2-car or 3-car garage, and nobody parks in their 2-car or 3-car garage because it's packed to the rafters with stuff. I think there are 2 of us who actually park in our garage. And it doesn't make anybody any happier. Not even, they probably just buy the same things over and over again because they forgot they're in the garage. But that's how it is. That's the Cain sense. It's thinking happiness and security comes from out there somewhere. And Abel, on the other hand, is the one who has a vision of a state where there is no stressing and straining. There's no pining and longing. There's no worrying about things and stuff and bank balances. Abel trusts God to provide what's necessary to fulfill his vision. That attitude is the one that brings heaven into our lives right now. It reminds us that abundance and prosperity are inside jobs, just like happiness. Neville wrote it this way. He said, Cain offers evidence of the senses which consciousness, or God, rejects, because acceptance of this gift as a mold for the future means the fixation and perpetuation of the present state forever. The sick will be sick, the poor will be poor, the thief will be a thief, the murderer will be a murderer, and so on without hope of redemption. Meaning, if we get stuck there, nothing ever changes, right? So he goes on and says, consciousness, or God, has no respect for such passive use of imagination, which is the gift of Cain. God delights in the gift of Abel, the active, voluntary, loving exercise of the imagination by humans for themselves and others. Indeed, in the epistle to the Hebrews, it's written, by faith Abel offered unto God a more excellent sacrifice than Cain. This faithful, conscious use of imagination in active and loving and voluntary ways on behalf of ourselves and others is what we're here to do. It's why we have an imagination, right? It's why we have this amazing mental faculty called the ability to create and see in our minds, to create in our own minds the future, to, through the use of will, change the way we think, through this loving exercise of imagination to stretch beyond what we already know. It's a precious gift, this imagination that we have. We're not here to be fooled by the facts and circumstances of the world. We're here to have a higher view, a bigger consciousness, one that remembers that we're plugged into the infinite. We're expressions of the infinite. And so we're not here to live in fear, but faith. We have a choice in every moment which way we let the energy flow. And it's the same energy. It's the energy that is creating things all the time. And it flows through us all the time. And when we're afraid, it means we have faith in the idea that something's going to go wrong. Right? Something terrible is going to happen. Oh, they're going to put me in the poorhouse, whatever it is. And it takes a lot of energy to stay in that state. It's a huge outpouring of energy. When we have faith in our vision of what we want life to be like for us and for the world, the same energy, but we're using it in a positive way instead of letting it spill out all over the place in fear. And the really nice thing about positive energy, and you all know this, it multiplies itself in us, whereas negative energy just saps us. You know, when you're feeling happy and joyful and positive, you're bouncy and you're vital. But when you're feeling negative, you're tired and cranky. Maybe not cranky enough to kill your brother, but that's part of the point of the story as well. See, the cranky part of us, the fearful part, is always trying to kill our vision. But you're tired and you're down unless you're using the energy positively. You've all experienced this. See, you and your vision are precious. The vision for your life is precious to you and to the world, and your vision for the collective life, the life of the universe, is precious to all of us. So why do we waste our preciousness being afraid and living as though we're controlled by what's happening in the world instead of controlled by this power that lives in and as us? Neville has this idea, which I really loved. He said, life on earth is a training ground for image making. If you use only the molds which your senses dictate, there will be no change in your life. You are here to live the more abundant life, so you must use the invisible molds of imagination and make results and accomplishments the crucial test of your power to create. Only as you assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and continue therein are you offering the gift that pleases, the gift of Abel. And as Thoreau said, if one advances confidently in the direction of his dream and endeavors to live the life which he has imagined, he will meet with a success unexpected in common hours. And so we do this, I think, first by remembering that the cause and meaning of a phenomenon in life can only be found within our own consciousness. You know, things which do appear are, things which are seen were made of, let me start over with this. This Bible phrase is awkwardly phrased. Things which are seen were not made of things that do appear. Things that are seen are made of invisible things, thought. That's where they start. So as we practice having the dream, having the vision, and advancing confidently towards it, and living the life which we imagine, we ascend the ladder of consciousness. And then the phenomena of our lives begin to change. And we ascend the ladder of consciousness by paying close attention to our internal conversations. And if you don't know what they are, just stop and listen for a minute to that nattering voice in your own head that's your subconscious is telling you what you've been habituated to think. You know, when I find myself in moments of doubt and fear, the first thing I do is pay my bills, and I pay them in a different way than usual. I stop and give thanks for everything that I'm purchasing with the money I'm spending. I get a warm house that I love to live in. I get a healthy body and healthy pets. I get light to read by and food that is nourishing and good for me and tasty because I'm a good cook, and a car that starts when I turn the key, and all of those things. I start by saying thank you for these things that this energy exchange has brought to me. And that gratitude moves my consciousness up the ladder a little until I arrive at the place where I remember that, again, that money is an exchange, it's a symbol for an exchange of energy. So I'm exchanging the energy that I put into my job for the energy that somebody else puts into theirs, right? The person who makes it so that my house is warm, and the person who makes it so that there's electricity in the wires when I flip the switch and all of that. And that question always leads me to ask, am I exchanging my energy in the way I want to? Am I fulfilling my vision for myself? And does it help fulfill this vision of this collective vision that we hold of a world that works for everyone? Which leads me to ask, what is my vision for my lifetime anyway? Right? Got to start. You got to get there. I often go back to the practice of visioning to be reminded, and then to find out how the vision wants to be enlarged or how it wants to play out in my life right now. And in your bulletin, I put a little outline of the visioning process for you, because if you don't practice visioning, I highly recommend it. Not only for your spiritual well-being, but for your temporal well-being. Visioning is not the same as visualization or image making. It's more like image allowing. It's about opening up to your own soul and asking what the highest vision for your life is. And listening without preconception or judgment for those answers that kind of, in my case, bubble up from the deepest part of my being. Some other people feel like it drops in from the cosmos, however it works for you. They're the answers that come from the place where the divine dwells in you. So, all you have to do is spend a couple minutes breathing and relaxing, and then ask yourself the first question, and then wait and see what happens. And after a few minutes, you can make notes if you want. After a few minutes, you move on to the next question until you've gone through all of them. And as you practice this, what happens is the vision starts to become fleshier and more full and real and clear to you, and then it starts to show up in your life in really unexpected ways sometimes. So I urge you to try this weekly or daily for the next 60 days or so, 15 minutes a day or an hour a day if you want to spend it. See what happens in your life when you do that. Visioning is the kind of thing that can utterly change our lives, for sure, but it can also just help us to live the ones we are living more fully and more richly. So when I come up with, the next idea in the mind of the one for me, then I ask, if I were living in this vision fulfilled, what would I be doing? What would I be thinking? What would I be saying? What would I be wearing? Who would I be surrounded by? I start to ask those questions. This is the image making. This is where imagination and visualization start to come in, because when we see ourselves living in the vision fulfilled, we start to make it real for ourselves. And then every day I ask, what is one thing I can do right now to move me in that direction? What's one small act I could take today towards that vision fulfilled? If I really want to move in that direction, I take that step. If I'm feeling a little nervous, I might wait till tomorrow. Because sometimes my visions make me go, are you kidding? But every time I follow them, I'm taken to exactly the right place. I arrive at just the right place. So I ask myself, what's one thing? And then I take that step. As the Buddhist reading for today said, drop by drop is the water pot filled. Likewise, the wise man, gathering little by little, fills himself with good. See, when we do these things, we vision. And then we say, what would I be doing? How would I be if I were living in that vision fulfilled? And there's what's one small step I can take towards fulfillment of that vision. When we start to do that, the vision begins to take on reality, and it starts to show up. Little pieces of it start to show up here and there, and then all of a sudden, we find out the real power of our consciousness. Our fortune truly begins right here in our own consciousness. Any change in our life truly begins with a change in our consciousness. We cannot keep doing the same old thing and expect different results. It's only when we change our consciousness that we can begin to expect something different. And the very best part of this in my book is that it brings not only faith and hope, but enormous joy. Enormous joy. The joy that comes from knowing what is possible. Not just what's already happening because of our old patterns of thinking, but what's possible. We're truly practicing what's possible when we live in and from our vision. And my best advice to you is never let anything come between you and that joy. Never let anything come between you and the joy of living your vision, of living in what's possible rather than in what's already happening. What happens to me is that when I begin to step into that vision in my mind and I begin to use my imagination and my will to take those little tiny steps, I start to live the vision now, and then it shows up in my world. So let yourself have the joy of realizing that your fortune truly begins in your own consciousness, with this vision for your life and the collective life of the community that you live in. Anybody have anything they want to say this morning? Here I come with the mic. Don't be shy. Oh, what a shy bunch. My front row girl is out today, I see. Okay, then. What I want for all of you, what I wish for all of you from the very depths of my soul is that you discover what's possible for each one of you, the beauty and the wonder and the light that you are, and what's really possible for you. So let's pray together right now. Prayer is mostly just about remembering the deep truths that speak to us from the very center of our being. And the first one I always remember is that there's only one life. That life is God. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. There is only that power and presence by whatever name and however you think of it. Whether you call it God or spirit or the universe or intelligence or life. Whatever name you and conception of it you have. It's the only one there is. It began in that first moment and spread itself throughout all creation. Where somehow it holds everything together. It keeps this planet just the right distance from the sun so that we have life. It keeps the universe, even though it's expanding, it keeps it in its perfect order. It is the glue that holds even subatomic particles together. It is that which fills even, quote, empty, close quote, spaces with consciousness. And wherever it goes, it all goes. So that from that tiny subatomic particle out to the furthest reaches of space, it's present. It's intelligence and wisdom and joy and love and compassion and abundance and wealth and health and well-being and all those good things. That is the glue that holds everything together. And it also lives within each one of us. When we take the time to uncover it in ourselves, that truly is the spiritual path, is uncovering that which is already there. The very life of the universe, closer than our heartbeats, closer than our next thought. It is what we truly are, and we simply uncover it by becoming clear, by making choices for good, by choosing faith instead of fear, by choosing love, by choosing joy, by choosing all those good things that are surrounding us all the time, that are indwelling us all the time. And so what I know for each of us is that we say yes to that vision that already lives within us, that is making itself aware step by step, tiny piece by tiny piece. We say yes to it. We allow it into our consciousness. We live in it. We allow it to become fleshed within us. And then we notice as it begins to show up in our own lives, as abundance, as joy, as greater faith, as deeper love, as healthier relationships, as all the good things of life. And we do the same with our collective vision, so that when we look, we see a world that is beginning to work for more and more and more, in more and more ways. We look for evidence of that. We hold it up. We claim it. We support it with our energy. And we behold it as it unfolds. I know that this community is blessed and a blessing. And I know that each person here is blessed and a true blessing to the world. A force for good in the world. And I say thank you. It is with deep gratitude that I simply let go of these words, knowing that power and presence, which is everywhere in the universe, has already said yes and will continue to say yes, for we are its beloved. And so in deep gratitude, I simply let go and I let God. And to anchor this, we say together, and so it is.
We are all just drops
now have an opportunity to support the work of our center with our generosity. Our generosity is the way we practice, one of the ways we practice living from the vision. It's a powerful, powerful practice to give from that place of gratitude. And speaking of generosity, one of our finance committee members reminded me that the shortfall I talked to you about a couple of weeks ago only means that if everyone gave $5 or $10 more on Sunday, we'd be back on track toward our collective vision. So I am a tither. Regardless of that, it means I give 10% of my gross income. Regardless of that, here's my extra $10 for this week. And I know that if we all do that, we will not have the frets and scary moments that we've had in the last little bit. As you're getting ready to give, I just invite you to take a moment and count your blessings. Think about all the things you have to be grateful for. That warm house, that car that starts, even if it's only most of the time. The clothes that you're able to wear, the food that you're able to eat, the friends, the sense of community, the fact that you are a blessing to the world, just as you are. There is so much to be grateful for in this life. And so I invite you to just let yourself be filled up with gratitude. And take your gift in your hands or your heart, if you give electronically as I do. And just know with me, I am joyful.
I am joyful.
I am free.
I am free.
I am grateful.
I am grateful.
I live in gratitude.
I live in gratitude.
And I give with gratitude.
And I give with gratitude.
And I say yes.
And I say yes.
To all the good life has to offer.
To all the good life has to offer.
And so it is.
We could do it again.
You enjoyed that, didn't you? It was fun. It was a fun song. I have a couple of quick announcements. If you didn't notice, we now have available to us something we set up a while ago, and I didn't realize it, and that is you can now use your cell phone to text to make a contribution. It's on the bulletin insert. It says text to give. The first time, Breeze will ask you a few questions about yourself. You only have to do that one time. And you just text the word give to that number and you're all set up. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing. Makes it really easy. If you are relatively new to our community, please know that you are invited to join us right after service at about, we're ending on time today. Probably about 10 minutes to 12 in the adult classroom for the first session of the Discover class. We'll also meet on November 19th and December 3rd. There's a few munchies in the social hall, so grab something to tide you over and join us in the adult classroom. The fundraiser, it's partly fundraiser, but it's also part of our whole Christmas giveaway thing. Rory the Lion and Avon grooming packs. That's been extended to Thanksgiving. So if you didn't get one of those two things purchased, you can still do that today. And the whole idea is that, you write a check to Avon for $20 for the big stuffed animal. The center gets half, and what our hope is that you'll donate the first one back to the center to go to children who are homeless at Christmas. With the personal care packs, it's the same deal. I think they're $12. The center gets half, and if you donate one back, it goes to teens who are having terrifically difficult times in their lives. What we want to do is not only raise a little money for the center, but more than that, be able to broaden our giving this Christmas season to people who really need it. And don't forget to mark your calendars for Saturday, November 18th. It's the Bingo Bash, and it's going to be really fun. There's a party girl in charge of this thing this year. It's going to be fun. Adult beverages will be served along with snacks. We'll have raffles, we'll have bingo, and it should be just a laugh a minute, so please don't miss it. Take a look at the last page of your bulletin insert for all the things that are coming up, and at the flyers that are inserted in the bulletin. We have a lot coming up just in November and even more in December. So If there's an issue going on in your life about which you could use some prayer, our licensed practitioners would love to pray with you. They are here for you. You can talk to any of the women with the white or teal prayer stoles on. Just say, I'd like prayer, and they will find a quiet place to pray with you. You can also put a written prayer request back in the prayer chest, or you can call the number on the back of your bulletin cover, our prayer line, and we'll pick that up and pray for you this week. That is the practitioner's gift to you, and they're pretty fabulous. They're all very fabulous at seeing that spiritual truth even sometimes when you can't. So I think that does it for today, except look, I want to talk to you about hugs now. Before you leave here, make sure you get your 10 to 12 hugs from the people here who love you. Hugs are really, really good for us. They cause the body to secrete wonderful hormones that make us feel better. But more than that, it improves your mental and emotional health. They're really good for you. So make sure that you get all the hugs you could possibly want today. And meet somebody new. Start a conversation with someone you don't know well. Just say hi and see where that takes you. You never know who it is that's part of your vision who might be here that you've never met before. So let's stand for our closing affirmation and our closing song, which is Holy Ground. Take us out on a dancing note today. So please repeat after me. Today I choose faith.
Today I choose faith.
I say goodbye to fear.
I say goodbye to fear.
I step into my vision.
I step into my vision.
With a whole heart and a whole mind.
With a whole heart and a whole mind.
I say yes to life.
I say yes to life.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Have a great week, everybody.